we're going to start. And let me know if you have any questions about that. And also, I just want to take a quick moment to ask anybody who has not been on this call before, is new to this call, is new to the coalition, even if you're just popping in for a short visit, would you mind introducing yourself to the group, your name and your organization and why you're here?
Hi there. My name is Alexis Shimleski. I am the Digital Communications Manager at the KC Tech Council. Thanks so much for having me. For those of you who don't know, the KC Tech Council is a nonprofit membership organization comprised of 170 plus members and sponsor companies ranging from large enterprises to small businesses across the Kansas City metro. I am here today to be talking about our volunteer board. So I'm so excited to dive into that at the end of this meeting. Thanks again for having me.
Great, Alexa, thank you for introducing yourself. And as you mentioned, we'll be hearing from you a little bit later in our community announcements.
So good morning. My name is Terry English Yancey. I'm the founder and CEO for Essential Families. I have a puppy over here, so I apologize. He's speaking with all the toys, but I'm going to share a little brief update on our essential broadband pilot that we've done here. So glad to be here.
That's great, Terry. And you are our member spotlight today. So look forward to hearing your presentation after G.
Good morning, I'm Erika Garcia Reyes. I'm the Director of Strategic Initiatives at Revolución Educativa. We're a nonprofit organization serving the Latino community and empowering them. And we started doing our digital skills training program as of last November, and we've had a huge success with that. And all of our classes are in Spanish.
Oh, excellent. Great. Thank you, Erica. That's one of the wonderful things about this meeting, this group, and why we get together is a way to share information, share resources, network, and figure out what everyone else is doing so that we can work together more collaboratively. Sometimes it's harder to do that online. And just so that everyone here knows, if you're available next March or next month, March 10th, our meeting is going to be in person downtown at the Kansas City Central Library, 5th floor, Hellsberg. And so we'd love to have as many of you who can come in person, and you can make these connections face to face. And of course, we're going to have coffee and refreshments. And so we'd love to have you all show up in person. Anyone else?
Hi, my name is Flor Lisbeth Cruz Longoria. I am the Supportive Services Manager at Harmony Project KC. We're a free after-school music program for kids 6 to 18. We also lead care services and Path to College outside of the music instruction, which just ensures that the kids have all the resources that they need to get to higher ed and that the parents have all the resources that they need so they can focus on being a family instead of surviving.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Welcome. Welcome.
Hi there, my name is Joseph Lay. I am the new Deputy Director for the Kansas Office of Broadband Development, housed in the Department of Commerce. This is my third week on the role here, and previously to that, I had served 6 years in the Kansas Legislature as a staffer, in my most recent 2 years as Chief of Staff for then House Minority Leader Tom Sawyer. I'm on here the call today to kind of talk a little bit. I work with Kimberlyn Jones here, who has asked me to kind of speak a little bit to the Spark process that was developed and executed by the legislature, and I look forward to learning more about all of you.
Great. Thank you, Joseph. Look forward to hearing from you and Kimberlyn a little bit later in the hour. Thanks a lot. Anybody else?
Hi there. I used to be on this group, but it's been several years, so I figure it's time for a reintroduction. My name is Cindy Thompson. I'm the Dean of Libraries at the University of Missouri, Kansas City. And back then, we were looking for ways that we could be more engaged and simply couldn't manage it. So I'm hoping to find ways for us to be engaged again.
That's great. Welcome back, Cindy.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Dimitri Farding. I'm the Digital Inclusion Specialist at the Missouri Office of Broadband Development, and I am here today to talk about one of our newly released digital equity focused grant programs.
Great. Thanks, Dimitri. Happy to have you and BJ both on the call and look forward to your presentation. Okay, anybody else? Okay, well, with that, I'm going to move on to our featured speaker. Very excited about Ji-Soo Song. He's the Digital Equity Advisor for the U.S. Department of Education. And while at the U.S. Department of Education's Office of Educational Technology, Ji led the Digital Equity Education Roundtable Initiative to expand equitable adoption of high-speed broadband and digital tools for learning. He also develops intra-agency and intra-agency partnerships to close the digital divide and provide subject matter expertise to help with capacity building and technical assistance efforts. We're really excited to have him here today. And one of the reasons that he's here is he provided this report that I just mentioned, Advancing Digital Equity for All, and he's going to discuss that. We can also put a link to this report in the chat and then send it out in our after the meeting newsletter. So with that, very excited to introduce to you Ji-Soo Song, Digital Equity Advisor of the U.S. Department of Education. Ji?
Thank you so much for that introduction. I'm going to share my screen for some slides. Can folks give me a thumbs up if you can see just the first slide? Awesome. Thank you. Well, thank you, Carrie, and also Leslie for inviting me to your coalition call. I see some familiar names and faces in the Zoom, actually, including Melinda, who's at NTIA, and then Ina, who's joining me at Net Inclusion in about a month for a digital resilience panel. So glad to see some familiar faces already. And I know, this group, after watching the AFC Championship game last week, I know this group's really excited. So best of luck in, about a week and a half. I have no affiliations to Philadelphia whatsoever. So, I have no dog in this fight. So best of luck there.
Chiefs.
Yeah.
Go Chiefs.
Now you do. You need to cheer for the Chiefs.
Yeah. All right. So as Carrie mentioned, my name is Ji-Soo Song, and I serve as a digital equity advisor at the Office of Ed Tech within the Department of Education, where my role is to, as you mentioned in the bio, collaborate with colleagues across different agencies in the federal government to help maximize the impact of programs, policies concerning broadband and digital equity. Could folks give me a thumbs up if you've ever heard of our office, OET? Totally fine if you haven't. All right, so I'll start with a brief introduction to our office for folks who might be unfamiliar. The Office of Educational Technology, or OET, develops national educational technology policy and establishes that national vision for how technology can be used to transform teaching and learning. And folks most often know us from our flagship policy document mandated by Congress, which is the National Ed Tech Plan, the latest version of which was published in 2017, and we're undergoing a refresh right now, hopefully to be published either late this year or early 2024. We carry out our mission by issuing practical guidance and policy, strategically investing in design and development of solutions, and facilitating engagement and collective action. And as Carrie mentioned in the intro, last fall, OET launched our Digital Equity Education Roundtables initiative, which aimed to suggest strategies for leaders as they develop digital equity plans with funds from the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law. And I know that this group is already very well versed in the topic of digital equity and inclusion. I think I heard in the new member intros that this group's been meeting for several years now. So I hope this presentation is just able to provide one additional tool to support all of your ongoing efforts. So here's an overview of some of the questions to keep in mind as you listen in, and maybe if we have time, we'll come back to these at the end. So how can OET and this coalition of experts collaborate to amplify some of the recommendations in the new guidance resource? Identify stories of digital equity solutions for learners if you're aware of folks doing awesome work in the Kansas City area, and then help ensure that the needs of learners are represented as states begin developing their digital equity plans. All right, so we know the pandemic, highlighted the impact of the digital divide on learners lacking that home access. Research shows that students who lack this foundational access to the internet from home, exhibit lower on a multitude of metrics, from digital skills attainment to homework completion rates, GPAs, standardized test scores, which of course has implications for their post-secondary readiness, workforce success, and things like that. And as we continue recovering from the pandemic, we know that educators are coming back into classrooms increasingly increasingly leveraging the breadth of active and innovative learning opportunities that are made possible through technology. And also schools across the country are accelerating the implementation of whole child approaches with technology as well. So we really have an opportunity under the bipartisan infrastructure law for these opportunities to become more equitably and sustainably available at scale. And of course, these opportunities at the federal level includes the Digital Equity Act programs administered by our amazing colleagues at the Department of Commerce and NTIA, which funds the development and implementation of those state digital equity plans. So with this background in mind, and knowing that the Department of Education is not the lead agency on this effort, we've asked ourselves a series of questions. What's our agency's role going to be in helping maximize the impact of that $65 billion broadband package in the law, especially as state leaders develop those plans? And in carrying out this role, how are we going to advocate for the needs of learners, families, educators, and communities that are furthest from digital opportunities? And these sorts of internal questions were what led to the development of our initiative. And through the DEAR initiative, we held a series of national conversations back in last year with communities and organizations that are championing education and digital access, including some families and students themselves. And we used the findings from all of these conversations to develop guidance for leaders as they begin developing these state digital equity plans. And I'll go over some of the highlights from that resource with you today. And we're continuing to engage different sectors as they develop solutions to support this national effort. So we've had strategic conversations with, education nonprofits, state and district leaders, philanthropies, industry leaders, and think tanks, research organizations, everyone who needs to be involved in that collective vision towards digital equity. And of course, in developing the guidance resource specifically, we made sure to place our learners at the center. We intentionally designed our initiative to hear directly from those who are representing populations that we know from the data, from the stories, are currently furthest from digital equity and opportunity. So we had listening sessions, conversations focused on our learners of color, our learners from rural areas as well as urban areas, those from Native and Indigenous populations, our low-income post-secondary adult learner populations. We also spoke with those who advocate for students who get less often talked about when it comes to the topic of digital equity and inclusion, including our highly mobile populations, learners experiencing homelessness, those who interact with the justice system, those with disabilities, as well as parents and caregivers themselves as well. And at the National Digital Equity Summit that we hosted at the Department of Education back in last September, we launched the publication informed by these learner-centered listening sessions, Advancing Digital Equity for All. So we're really excited to be able to share this resource with your coalition. The resource is now available on tech.ed.gov/DEER. And you can also scan this QR code to access the resource. So in case anyone's using their phones to access the QR code, I'll give a slight pause here.
It works great.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. So I'll share the link again in the chat if you missed it, but we found through the scan of the literature and through all of these national conversations that we had that access is comprised of these three critical elements of availability, affordability, and adoption. And this framework is what organizes the new guidance resource. We know that for equitable access to happen, we need to ensure that all three aspects are addressed in parallel. We, of course, know about availability, so the boxes, wires, the physical infrastructure that needs to be in place to give access to a given community. Affordability, I think someone mentioned the Affordable Connectivity Program, of course, addresses a family's ability to pay for the total cost of maintaining that access. And then adoption, this is the piece that we sort of gave the most attention to. Even when we solve for the availability and affordability solutions, we still need to think about the human level barriers that often impede access for a lot of our communities, such as access to information, technical support, digital skills, and literacy. As our colleagues at the FCC, at NTIA tackle issues of broadband availability, broadband affordability, we saw the Department of Education's role in helping drive home the fact that we can't just tackle those two issues and say mission accomplished, right? We need to be able to help our learners connect by taking a human approach to the issue in parallel, meeting communities where they are, and helping them use technology tools in a way that supports their individual goals and needs. For today, since we don't have tons of time, and I know folks have speaking roles after my times, I'll just briefly go over some of the insights from the adoption section. So adoption actually has a definition in federal law under the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. It refers to the process by which an individual obtains daily access to broadband at a speed, quality, and capacity that is necessary with the digital skills that are necessary to participate in online on a personal device and on a secure and convenient network. So this is the definition for adoption that we adopted in our guidance as well. So here are some of the adoption barriers that the national conversation participants talked about. First is the exclusion of impacted communities from the decision-making process. As we develop strategies to go inside these state digital equity plans, when the voices of folks that are impacted by the digital divide are left out, there can be a disconnect between what solutions are and what the communities actually need. This, of course, ties into the issue of trust. There's often a distrust of systems and programs between the communities that we intend to serve and the government and the private entities. Communities who experience marginalizations often do not trust federal and state governments and private companies due to historical and ongoing exclusionary practices. Lack of intentional collaboration without partnerships across different sectors, especially between the education sector and the broadband sector, who often don't get a chance to talk to one another. Limited knowledge, expertise, relationships can prevent, well-intentioned efforts from seeing impact. Lack of reliable, disaggregated data. We know that overly aggregated data results in an inaccurate understanding of the access to broadband and technology tools for learning. And when we use that inaccurate data to drive funding program decisions, we can widen the digital divide. Lack of inclusive strategies for communicating when we fail to provide communication about services available, resources in the community's home languages and in accessible formats. Public awareness of those programs and services don't increase as much as we'd like them to be. And then lack of access to critical support resources. Learners and families might need assistance to complete applications for things like the Affordable Connectivity Program or other services like digital literacy workshops to fully understand, those program scopes. And then in response to those barriers, here are some of the strategies around adoption that these national conversation participants said would be promising for us to pursue as a country. The first is, co-creating solutions, right? Collaborating with those who experience the digital divide firsthand. This is integral not only to hear about current pressing needs, but also to build that trust and buy-in from community members as the strategies are deployed. Providing multilingual, multimodal technical support. During the pandemic, we've seen communities establish things like hotlines, recruit digital navigators, and as trusted members of that community, these digital navigators were able to collect data on common barriers faced by the community, support families and caregivers in signing up for programs like the ACP, provide digital skills training and one-on-one technical support. And on that topic of digital literacy and resilience, for many communities, it's not enough that we distribute the necessary physical tools. We also have to offer opportunities for learners, families, caregivers, and community members to develop digital skills to leverage technology to meet their goals. Leveraging trusted community assets. We know education institutions like our schools, community colleges, adult learning organizations, as well as community-based nonprofits have facilitated information exchange throughout the pandemic and resource distribution as those trusted hubs. And they've also been key players in providing digital literacy training for learners and their families. And they often have expertise and resources to ensure that communications about these resources are inclusive, providing translations in different languages, providing accessibility accommodations. And of course, regular learning and feedback cycles. As these adoption strategies are implemented, it's important to ensure that learners and other community members have an opportunity to openly provide feedback on what's working and may require some scaling, and what's not working and needs adjustments. And in sum, what our participants talked about were that while communities have seen success with these strategies, of course, these strategies require sustained funding and capacity to maintain some of the gains that we've seen in the last 3 years and close the digital divide for good. So again, we've seen, really good progress towards digital equity in recent years, but we know that further efforts are going to be needed to ensure that learners of all backgrounds have access to reliable high-speed broadband and technology for learning. And our national conversation participants shared that those solutions that we include on those digital equity plans need to be sustainable, community-driven, continuously involving those who experience the digital divide. So of course, that means that efforts have to start with a strong plan for meaningful community ecosystem engagement engagement, and the barriers and strategies that are included in our guidance resource can be a really good starting point to ground those collaborative efforts in. So that was a little bit about the guidance resource, and just want to briefly talk about what our office is doing in 2023 to build on that momentum from last year. We know that this next year will be a critical window for the Department of Education to, as that support agency, deliver support on behalf of the education sector. So all of these work streams are already underway at our office. First, we're coming to events like this and joining other national conversations to amplify the community-based recommendations in our guidance resource. Second, we're uplifting local stories and North Star examples through our story engine, which you can find on tech.ed.gov/stories, so that it can help spark ideas for the types of digital equity strategies and what they look like in practice. And then supporting strategic implementation, we're engaging in opportunities to help states across the country as they aim to involve the education sector in their digital equity planning. For example, right now we're identifying some model states where this type of cross-sector collaboration between the education leaders and the broadband leaders is already happening, so that we can uplift them as examples. And a blog from OET on this topic highlighting, I think, 9 different states will be coming soon. So I'll be sure to share that with you all once that's been cleared to publish. So just to close us out, just wanted to come back to the questions that I had presented earlier at the top. How can OET and this group, this coalition, work together to amplify our guidance and its recommendations? Carrie, I really appreciate you for sharing the link to that already with folks in the Zoom today. How can we work together to help identify stories of digital equity solutions that serve learners and help ensure that the needs of learners are represented as states develop digital equity plans? I'm also open to some general questions from you all. I haven't been keeping track of the chat, so I'll take a look at that in just a second. I'd also love to get to know some of the plans underway in your state. How is the education sector involved in the digital equity planning efforts? Recognizing that it's, of course, a little bit early in the process, but if so, are you aware of any initial steps that you're aware of? We'd love to get to know that as well. So that is my final slide. Thank you for listening in, and we can get into a discussion.
Thank you, G. Thank you so much. And if you look in the chat, I think William and others are putting in some examples already. And this is very timely as well, because our upcoming community announcements will go into a bit more detail from our state broadband offices, where they're looking for actual digital demonstration projects that are working as part of their strategy for moving forward with planning and funding for the state of Missouri, and the Spark program we'll hear about as well from the Kansas Office of Broadband Development. But thanks for your presentation, and I want to open it up to any questions or response to G's question about, is there something you want to share, or any of work that you're doing, or any other questions you might have for him?
So I have my hand up, but I'll just go ahead and jump in. So we've been working for since the EBB was the EBB, trying to get the word out about the federal subsidy that's now the Affordable Connectivity Program, and I find it frankly a bit frustrating that the federal agencies are not diving in to help get the word out when when one of the qualifications is free and reduced cost lunch, including the community eligibility provision. We early on in our internet access support program that launched in November of 2020, we worked with some school districts directly, and I have made some great inroads with some local school districts now, but it feels like from the federal level that information could be getting out, as well as helping individual school districts with the with the template that they need to provide, so that families can successfully sign up, because school districts have to provide that. It just feels like there's a role there, and our school districts are not aware of it. I heard from somebody a couple days ago who's a school resource person, and she had no idea. So I'm just wondering what the conversation is at the federal level there about how to try and get that word out from going out to all the districts instead of individual or communities having to form those relationships.
That's a really timely question. We know that I think like 15 or 16 million households have taken advantage of the Affordable Connectivity Program, but there's upwards of 48 to 50 million households that qualify for it. So we need to make sure that everyone's involved in getting the word out about how to apply for the Affordable Connectivity Program. So one of the sort of the tactics that we're engaged in is partnering with national conveners of schools and districts so that we can get it out through those channels. Where the most recent example is we've been working with the National Association of Elementary School Principals, so NAESP, and the National Association of Secondary School Principals, NASSP. We're going to do a sort of national webinar for the principal community, I believe 2 weeks from today, so that they are aware of the tools available to share about the Affordable Connectivity Program. We're also working with other nonprofits to make sure that schools and districts have an opportunity to hear about what the Affordable Connectivity Program is and what are the opportunities to get the word out to eligible households. I put a link in the chat, tech.ed.gov/ACP. It adds some information and suggestions for schools and districts on how to get the word out about the program. It also has a template form that schools can use to let eligible households know that their child participates in the free or reduced lunch price program, school breakfast program, and thus their household can take advantage of the ACP. So we're trying to make sure that that's getting out, via different channels as well.
Hi,
That's great
Mr.
news.
Su.
Thank you.
Hey, Mr. Susan, I have a question. What is the definition of broadband at the state level, federal level?
I would love to get back to you on that question. There is a definition that the FCC chairwoman has proposed that updates the standing definition of the 25.3 standard, right? I wonder where those discussions have gone as of now, but I know there have been conversations at our partners at the FCC around that. So yeah.
So the conversation then is still around the definition of broadband is around speed, upload, download, and then I guess I need to get its connectivity to digital inclusion and digital equity.
Right. Yeah, we recognize at the Department of Education that we can't just, make broadband available to given communities. And then, again, as I mentioned in our presentation, same mission accomplished, right? There's all those support factors around digital equity and inclusion that also needs to be supported in parallel.
Okay. All right. Well, I just think that the only question that I don't hear, especially when I hear about ACP signups, it seems like it's an approach of you're poor, William, and since you were poor, you need a subsidy, and since you need a subsidy, I need to sign you up for ACP. And once you signed up for ACP and being poor, that you're always going to be poor, so you're always going to need a subsidy until the subsidies run out. What I don't hear anybody talking about is how do we take the broadband, the connectivity, the digital inclusion, and basically put people into the economy. I don't understand that.
William, hold on a second. I don't mean to cut you off, but you'll hear about that real soon because we're doing it. You'll hear about it real soon. I do. This is Kenneth Yancey with the Essential Families. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Office of Education Technology, for jumping into this thing. Let me tell you why. First of all, let me ask you a question. Do you all have an advisory board established?
You mean at the department level or for the Office of Educational Technology specifically?
At any level that could get the message to the right people, any level. Let me tell you why I'm asking the question, because I reviewed your presentation. It's extremely powerful and encouraging. I've been looking for you. We've been looking for you. Let me tell you why. The person that sits on your advisory board, he or she should do these things for you. They should help with the digital mapping. They should use AI and machine learning to find out what people really need. You don't need surveys anymore. I'll talk about that later on. The third thing is digital marketing, getting what you're doing to the masses, just like Facebook, Google, Amazon, Microsoft, and Apple. I'm gonna talk about that in a minute. The fourth thing is adoption. We figured that out. And again, we don't know everything, but I've been doing this it'll be 40 years. I've been doing digital communications, in this space, broadband. I guess you guys call it broadband. And the fifth thing is we want to show you all how to layer vital child and family critical resources on top of broadband. That's the Williams point. That's how we move away from this poverty to actually enabling people to participate in this digital economy. So again, there's 5 things that, again, this person, I'm saying me, from Essential Families could add to, and I'm just sharing what we did.
Yeah, thanks, Kenneth. And you're next on the agenda. So, but I did want to give G a chance to, did you want to respond to where William was going with his comment or question regarding, if someone is in a position of poverty, is the message, the narrative that they're never going to get out of it? Are we sending the wrong message here? Do you have anything you wanted to comment about Williams? And William, jump in if you want to finish your question.
No,
Yeah,
Carrie,
I'd love
thank you. Yeah, I would like to just hear his answer, but thank you for clearing that up and giving him opportunity to respond.
I think this is where, those state digital equity plans can be a really great asset to, engaging in those conversations that William brought up, right? If you look at the work that, NTIA is doing, it's encouraging folks to make sure that, the plans that folks are creating are aligned with state level economic plans, state level education plans, and things that are trying to see this from a holistic perspective, right? So I think that sends a clear message that that digital equity needs to be one part of sort of our, a holistic approach to, making sure that things like poverty are addressed as well.
Okay, great. Any other questions for G?
Hey, this is Melinda Stanley. I am the Federal Program Officer for Kansas with the NTIA and formerly our state, the state of Kansas Ed Tech Director. And I just want to emphasize so many of the points that Jisoo has made regarding involving educators. And I also want to make sure that there's a connection here with both the Missouri Department of Education and the Kansas State Department of Education, which are both agencies that the Office of Ed Tech works to support. And there are folks in our state ed agencies that can help Kenneth and folks with some of the state approaches. And there may be a state ed tech director in the agency that's charged with digital equity work within the state. So just wanted to make that correlation, and feel free to reach out if you have a question on who that may be in your state, either to Jisoo or to me. Thanks.
Thank you, Melinda. That's good information. And as we know, the representatives at NTIA for both of the state broadband offices, or the liaisons, really are to help navigate this process for the rest of us. So please, utilize their skills and their expertise. Okay, who else? Any other questions for G? Okay. We'll send that out again in the follow-up document, but it's also in the chat. So G, thanks so much really for your presentation and your hard work. We really appreciate you.
Thank you for the opportunity to talk to the coalition, and I'll drop my email in the chat in case folks want to reach out and have any additional questions. Oftentimes I find myself, having questions that I should have asked, after I drop from a call. So in case that happens to anyone, I'll drop my contact information. We'll love to hear about the work that's going on through this coalition to advance digital equity and inclusion in the region. I'm glad that, Melinda is also part of this call so that you have her also as a really great resource about all the great things that her agency is doing. So thank you again for the opportunity to speak.
Great. Thanks. I'm feeling you'll be hearing from people on this call. Okay, great. Now we're going to move on to our new member introduction. So this happens at every meeting. We try to highlight a new member, and you all have already heard in the introductions from Terry English Yancey of Essential Families. They're going to give a brief overview of the services provided through their Essential Broadband pilot. And I'm assuming Ken might jump in at some point, but turning it over to Terry.
Yes, yes. So thank you. Again, my name is Terry English Yancey. I'm the founder and CEO for Essential Families. First, I want to thank Carrie, Wendy, Aaron, and Leslie for the opportunity to share about our pilot that we've been doing. I also want to thank Wendy, who I think is on the call, for providing training. Megan's done a wonderful job training our families and also allowing us to use the library on 31st and Prospect for some of our training. And I also want to thank Tom with PCs for People as we purchased laptops from Tom. And that's been a smooth transition as well in terms of the laptops that we purchased. So a little bit about my background. I have 31 years of child and family development experience. I am older than what I look. I have a bachelor's in child and family development. I have a master's in curriculum instruction and a master's in management and leadership. So prior to starting Essential Families, I spent 24 years at a local nonprofit, the Family Conservancy. And there I was the Head Start home-based manager. I had a staff of 12. And so what I did there, I kind of brought some of those tools over to Essential Families and kind of reformatted what I really wanted to and truly wanted to do for Essential Families. So we have been doing our pilot now since November, and it will end in February. But our vision for Essential Families, we are to reach, inform, and inspire the lives of children and families. And our mission is strengthening families are essential to our community, city, and state. And we believe everything starts at home. So we are actually going to have a complete broadband pilot. And some of you are on this call. It'll be next Thursday, the 9th. So we'll actually have a complete update. So I know I only have 5 minutes, so I'll just jump into here. So our pilot, we did a target area of 9th to Prospect to Gregory and Prospect, east to Indiana, west to Paseo. And we chose this because this is one of the most unserved and underserved communities in Kansas City, Jackson County. So the target population is, about 19,000. Kenneth, with his background, we actually have 18,000 data points of families in that unserved and underserved community. So I'm excited to share about our pilot because, again, we started in November. I'll jump into the why we did this. For one, the services that we're providing, I kind of had like an aha moment. Everything that we provide sits on top of the internet, sits on top of broadband. So these are the services and programs. We have 20 digital navigators that assist the families enrolling in that ACP. We offer them the laptop computers, the computer training is there. And then from that, we have families that will join our virtual parental education program, our virtual mental telehealth that they offer. We have a platform called Everything, where families can get resources at their fingertips, and everything that we do with everything, it is translatable in the family's home language. Our program, all our services sits on Now Video. My husband, Kenneth, he built that Now platform that will be translatable, as well as we're working with families of multiple languages. We offer Z-Trip transportation, childcare payment assistance, and we have a workforce development piece that we offer here at Essential Families. And I'm proud to say that 2 of the families that actually went through the process, we have now hired as digital navigators. So, so prior to that, again, our services sit on Now. Now is HIPAA compliant. It's streamed by AWS. Kenneth built the platform. So it serves 47 languages that is coming down the pipe. With that, you can go to the next slide, Kenneth. These are some of the things that we've done. We have trained several families. Like again, I said we started in November. We have 69 families. Our goal was 69. We reached 69. We now have 77 on the wait list. So see, these are just some of the photos of the families that participated in our training and those families that we helped enroll in the ACP program. These are some of our other families that we've trained. Again, we trained 21 navigators. Thank you, Leslie, for training our navigators, because after our families received the computer training through Megan at the library, our digital navigators, they take over in terms of helping them navigate the ACP. We follow up with them. They're really acting as case managers. So they follow up with the families to make sure that connectivity is strong, and then our services begin after that. So these are some of our in-person events that we've attended as well. A lot of outreach that we've done. Sandy Rogers, we are at Impact Monthly. These are some of our other trainings. Again, our digital navigator training, our mental health providers, and our virtual parental educators. They just went through a 3-day curriculum training back in January. And so we have found, because we're in the community, we meet the families face to face. A lot of the times, these are the needs that they're wanting. They're wanting support in that parental role. They're wanting that mental health. You know, we're just not giving away the computers and connecting them, but these are services that they want. And before we actually give them a computer, we have them sign this commitment agreement. You know, we tie it back into our mission and vision and ensure that, you know, these are the services that they're going to get with their laptop, because again, everything is done virtually as well. And so we are actually, like I said, we will have an in-depth outcome and accountability meeting on February 9th. A lot of you have been invited to that, but these are some of our outcomes in our report that we've done. Again, we've exceeded everything that our funders asked of us to do in terms of our navigators, our outreach, again, serving those families. I have a lot of personal testimonials from families who really want that parental support, that mental health care piece. You can go to the next slide as well. Can all our families, you know, get access to our resource platform called Everything as well, the Z-Trip transportation, childcare assistance as well. So these are just some of our outcomes that we have done in the small time frame.
That's wonderful. I wanted to give it to.
And then over the next 45 days, you know, all our reporting of our services will be done in real time, because that's the thing that we advocate here at Central Families, is providing that real-time data for our funders and families.
And then how can people get in touch with you?
You want to keep going, Ken?
How can people get in touch with you if they want more information?
Well, again, we're having a full-blown outcomes meeting on the 9th, and if I'll put my email address in there, and I can invite those who have not already been invited. We'll go more in depth of this report, actually, Carrie, on the 9th at 1:30.
Is that at your offices, or where?
It's going to be on our platform called Now.
Oh, great.
Yes, it'll be a virtual meeting. And we're going to have those monthly, just to give a monthly update of what we're doing in terms of our pilot and the programs that we're offering.
Great.
That's it. That's it.
Okay.
Those are our funders.
Those are our funders, and we also have pictures of our board. I know it's only 5 minutes, but again, I welcome you all. If you want to hear more in depth, we can go in deeper conversations with it.
Thank you for the presentation, and thank you for joining the coalition. We're excited to hear more about what you're doing and where you're going. And I'm sure others on the call are interested in finding out more to see if there's areas for collaboration and partnership. Any questions for Terry? Okay, great. I'm going to move on to some exciting community announcements we have. I'm going to start with Dimitri Farthing, who's the Digital Inclusion Specialist for the Missouri Office of Broadband Development. And I think BJ Tanksley, who heads up that office, is also on the call. But Dimitri and BJ, would you like to share your exciting news about what's happening with the Missouri State Broadband Office?
Yeah, Dimitri, I'll kick it to you in just a second. Thank you all for having me. It's been a few months since I've been able to join one of your meetings. Got a lot going on in our broadband office. Obviously, last couple weeks ago, announced our broadband grants. Super excited about the work going to be done there. Going to be able to connect about 55,000 unserved and underserved locations. So super excited about the work being done. Quite a bit of it happening just north of Kansas City, kind of between Kansas City, St. Joe, and even further north than that. But beyond that, we also just recently opened our digital demonstration projects to let us kind of take part in this digital equity world in kind of a small test model, and then roll those forward. So we're excited to do that. Those applications opened just a few days ago, and I'll let Dimitri jump into that. but also excited that we will be joining you in person in the Kansas City area next month for your monthly meeting. So excited to come out in March to be able to connect in the Kansas City area. I know we've been there back in the fall, but excited to come back and really connect with Kansas City and really expect and hope to hear from a lot of you all about strengths, weaknesses, what we can do to help as we prepare for the IIJA funding coming right around the corner. So just wanted to jump on real quick before I kick it to Dimitri and say we appreciate everything you all do. We're excited about the opportunities. We love that we're getting to do some infrastructure work and then also taking our first move into this digital equity world as we prepare for what really is historic funding on both fronts through the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. And with that, I'll kick it over to JR.
Great. Thank you, BJ. And that meeting is March 10th at 10:30.
I think it's on me now. Thank you, BJ. So yes, good morning, everyone. Like I said earlier, my name is Dimitri Farthing, and I am the Digital Inclusion Specialist at the Office of Broadband Development. My colleague Adam, who you will likely see at our meeting March 10th, is responsible for the physical infrastructure component of our programming, and I handle the digital equity component. And I will share my screen briefly.
Can everybody hear Dimitri okay? Yes. Okay, great. Thanks.
All right, and then can we all see the screen?
Yeah.
Okay,
He's a little muffled. He sounds muffled and staticky a little bit.
I'll speak up a little bit. Is that any better? Any worse?
That's a little better, but yeah, if you don't mind just speaking up a little bit, I think that helps.
Yeah, just the mic or something. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I took off the. Work any better for people?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay, so we'll get started here. For those of you who came out to our Connecting All Missourians tour in the fall, some of these slides may look a little familiar to you, but I promise you there is some new information. And so just a little bit of background to get us started. I'm sure most of you all are experts in this field, but in 2021, the federal government passed the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law. And as a component of that, they also passed the Digital Equity Act. And so the Digital Equity Act is the single largest investment in attempts in support of attaining digital equity in the United States in the country's history. And specifically, this act created 3 programs that you can see on the screen right now: the State Digital Equity Planning Grant Program, the State Digital Equity Capacity Grant Program, and the Digital Equity Competitive Grant Program. And so I just want to tell you a little bit about our efforts thus far. We submitted and are very happy to say that we were awarded funding via the State Digital Equity Planning Grant Program. And with that funding, we are expected to produce a statewide digital equity plan for the state of Missouri, and we are currently working on that. And that statewide digital equity plan will then form the basis of our application for the capacity grant program, which we expect to unlock a significantly larger tranche of funding, which will enable us to host several digital inclusion programming, digital equity focused programming over the next 5 years. And so as a component of our preparation for this statewide digital equity plan, we've launched what we are calling our digital demonstration projects. And you can see the QR code on the screen right now. That will take you to our announcement that was released, that we released to announce the program, as well as a link to the application itself and the guidelines. And so a little bit about this digital demonstration program, or these digital demonstration projects. As I said before, this represents the very first efforts on behalf of the state of Missouri to really attain digital equity. These are our first, and this is our first digital inclusion work. And so we know that there's a lot of work to be done, but we really don't want to mess it up. And so in support of that, in order to gather data on what type of interventions work best in the state, what interventions are best suited to which populations and really helping them attain a state of digital equity, we've launched these digital demonstration projects. And we received $250,000 in funding from the federal government with the intention of funding between 10 and 50 projects. We really want these to be broadly representative of Missouri as a whole. We want them, and when we say representative of the state, we mean both geographically representative. We want as wide coverage of the state as we can, but also demographically representative. We really want to serve those communities that have been historically ignored. Specifically, NTIA's designated covered populations. And so these programs are expected to have a 5-month implementation period. And again, they're really focused on gathering data on what type of interventions work best in your neighborhood. And so we're funding 3 types of work. These were touched on in Ji-Sung's presentation, but we really want to fund the 3 main pillars of digital inclusion, the 3 main pillars of digital equity work. That is increased internet access, increased access to devices, and digital literacy. And so in support of that, we are funding programs that distribute free and or subsidized devices to communities and individuals who don't have them. That's our devices component. In terms of internet access, we are funding a registration and promotional campaigns for the FCC's Affordable Connectivity Program. And as it relates to the digital literacy component, we're also willing to fund programs that train and deploy digital navigators. Again, digital navigators, referring to those people who have the knowledge and skills and the capacity to transfer those skills to communities that need them, to make sure that every group is fully capable of participating in the digital economy. Again, with the hope that these digital demonstration projects will really give us useful data as we craft our programming over the next 5 years, with the ultimate goal of helping Missouri attain that state of digital equity. I can say the application opened on February 1st, and we expect it to run until March 1st. On that, again, that QR code will take you to our guidelines, our application, as well as the announcement. I will also put directly into the chat my email address if anyone has any questions, or if anyone in the state of Missouri would like to be added to our digital equity stakeholders list. We announced this program that way, but we also intend to announce all of our programming over the next 5 years that way. And I think that about wraps it up. So I'm happy to take any questions. I will also put in the chat, as I mentioned, a link to our announcement, as well as my personal email, or my work email address.
Thanks, Dimitri. Really appreciate the presentation and the information. This is exciting. I think that William Wells has his hand up. William, is that a new hand raising?
Yes, it is, Carrie. My question is for Dimitri and also BJ. Is BJ still on the call?
I think so.
Okay. Hey, so like my last question, I always ask for the keywords that aren't being talked about, right? So economics with digital inclusion. So my question, how is the state of Missouri Office of Broadband? I guess I could pose this to Kimberly's team in the Kansas Office of Broadband. How are you guys handling Justice 40 with it being a law that's attached to the infrastructure bill dollars? Because I don't hear that conversation, and just wondering how you guys are approaching that.
I think that particular question, BJ would be slightly better place to answer.
Could you ask that question again? I'm sorry. We're addressing.
No worries. I was just asking, what is the approach of the Kansas and Missouri Office of Broadband, offices of broadband, and the Justice 40 initiative that the Biden administration attached to all of the infrastructure bills that says 40% of it has to go to underserved communities and rural and urban communities?
Kimberlyn, you're muted. I don't know if you wanted to be saying something, and I'm not sure if BJ is listening, but the question, if you want to look into it with your team and get back to us, I think it's a great question.
I'm sorry. I know, again, I don't handle the physical infrastructure component, and so as it relates to that, I'm a little less well placed to answer, although I can say I will mention it to everyone. And on March 10th, I hope we can definitely provide you a better answer. I do want to say that, at least from an organizational standpoint, our entire approach to everything related to the Internet for All campaign, our Connecting All Missourians campaign, is exactly what you said, right? I think even prior to hearing about this Justice 40 initiative, for us, our entire target when connecting the state of Missouri, the thing that we focus on, connecting all Missourians, there are those underserved and unserved locations, right? Those are the only people left for us. That is our priority going forward in any expansion that we look at. We see no purpose in serving communities that already have high-speed internet. That would be a waste of rather limited funding to accomplish these goals, these rather ambitious goals that we have. And so I hope that addresses a bit of it. I want to say, I can say, I think moderately confidently that our target is much more than 40%. We want to get 100% of the people we connect. We want them to be underserved and unserved.
Got you. So is it safe to say or assume that since we're kind of getting caught up to speed and first time hearing about it, that the first couple of buckets of money that was released didn't have that as a consideration?
I've been with the department 7 months, and I know this most recent tranche of funding wasn't actually the bipartisan infrastructure law funding, which is effectively my start date. It was ARPA funding.
Got you.
So
Okay.
I can't speak to that. But if going forward, I can definitely say anything attached to Digital Equity Act or the BEAD Act is definitely targeted at unserved, underserved communities.
Right.
Perfect.
Thank you for asking that question, William. I'm actually new as well, of 2 months. So these are good questions that help me to understand the direction we're going, or at least put things in place. But Melinda Stanley was in our office prior to my leaving, and so she may be able to give some insight on your question.
Oh, okay. Hey, Melinda.
Hey, I think, Dimitri hit it on the head, and here's sorry, I'm not sure what that was. That is, William, one of the reasons why the NTIA built in a planning requirement in these two programs. So that is part of the work that both of these offices will be doing over the course of the next 9 months or so, as they plan for both the infrastructure, BEAD, and digital equity programs, is how they will address all of those requirements as part of their programs. So I wouldn't expect that either offices would have an answer on how they're going to do that yet, but be part of the planning.
Awesome. And I want to thank you all for answering the question. I just wanted to get it onto the table, and I want you to know that this is not a hot seat. It's a cool seat.
Right.
Thank you, William, for continuing to ask that question. It's an important one, and we need to keep it on the front burner. And thanks for everyone's answers there. And if you have further answers, JR or Kimberlyn or Melinda, please let us know, and we can include those in the outgoing letter next week. And then there is another question from Erica, I think for Dimitri. Is there going to be a recording of the info sessions available?
Well, with regard to the digital demonstration projects?
Yes.
Yes, I'm sorry that we had our application walkthrough on Wednesday, but we've decided to re-record it for ease of understanding and so that people can navigate through the video itself. And we expect that to go onto the Connecting All Missourians site Monday or Tuesday at the very latest.
Okay, great. Erica, I'm hoping that answered your question. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Great.
Terry, I had a small question for Dimitri.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Okay, so Dimitri, as you know, Essential Families, we don't provide broadband. We layer our services on top of any broadband provider. So my question is, will we be eligible to pursue that? Because we want to show folks how to properly utilize, right, this broadband, just like Amazon has to get these groceries to our door, right? That's all we're doing, is taking these vital services that typically you have to go somewhere to get. We're just bringing them to the phone or desktop, right? So I just want to make sure that we're eligible for your program.
So I want to emphasize, but this program that we're doing, again, it's our first one, and it's primarily a data gathering mission, right? And so we received comments during our public comment period on the guidelines saying, we've had comments that, will we qualify for this, or is the funding levels that you guys are offering isn't really sufficient to carry on this type of programming for a long time, and we recognize those concerns. I do want to say that this first program is very, very limited in its scope, right? This will deal nothing at all with broadband expansion whatsoever, and we will exclusively be funding those 3 types of programs. So I want to say, if your organization serves a community, specifically in our guidelines, it says NTIA's community serving institutions. If you were one of those, we will fund you as long as you're doing one of those 3 projects. Kenneth, I saw Terry's presentation that the three programs that we're funding seem to be exactly what you were doing with your pilot. And so if you wanted to draft again, if you wanted to draft an application based off one of that, I think that would stand a reason, that would stand, that would definitely pass muster. It would qualify. Would it pass the evaluation? I don't know, but it definitely qualifies.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Other questions for?
Sorry, one more thing, but let me say again, while this one is limited, that does not at all preclude us from expanding it in the future, right? If we receive feedback that says, oh, these haven't been the most effective interventions, but these may be, we have data to suggest that these other ones will work, then we'll alter our approach and expand the activities that we're willing to fund.
Thank you for clarifying that. Anybody else? Okay, great. Let's move on then to the Kansas Office of Broadband Development and Kimberlyn Jones. And I believe Joseph Lee is still on the call too. We'd love to hear from you guys about the Spark competitive grant opportunities. Another great exciting project from the Kansas side.
Right. I just had invited my colleague new to the team, Joseph Lay, and he has some information on it. And also, when he's done, I'd like to share a little additional information on what we're doing and get some webinar information out to everyone.
Sounds good.
Thank you so much for the invitation to speak to all of you here. And I will note that I will not be able to stay after I make my very quick presentation about Spark, as I do have a 12 o'clock I got to go to here. But roughly what I would like to just kind of speak about is just what's coming up in the pipeline for a lot of the providers as the next opportunity for them to apply for some awards through the state of Kansas. So we're just tailing off of awards that were just announced through phase 3 of CPF here in the state of Kansas, which were just awarded. And our next grant program is going to be through the Spark process. And so what Spark is, just to kind of give a very rough summary of what it is, it's an acronym standing for Strengthening People and Revitalizing Kansas. When the CARES Act was enacted back in 2020, it provided billions of dollars into the states, and that money was allocated in the state of Kansas as $1.25 billion into what the legislature had created, Spark. And in this Spark task force that they had generated, an executive committee was created with 4 different branches, one of them being connectivity. Very recently, in the last couple of months, it has been decided by the executive committee for this Spark to go ahead and kick out approximately $30 million to award grantees an opportunity to go ahead and start building that infrastructure to the unserved and underserved communities. And so we are currently now, literally this week, starting to draft the processes and the guidelines of this Spark program through the initiatives of the LINK program. And that is about $20 to $25 million into the infrastructure and about $5 to $10 million into the digital equity part. So right now, the plan for our office is to begin working on building out, drafting the guidelines for the Spark process, and we are mirroring that process through CPF, the Capital Projects Fund. And so as we are drafting those guidelines, working with our partners to get that launched, that launch date is looking to be roughly around March 1st is when we'll open up those applications. And as we open that up, we'll start to go through that process before we start looking at the digital equity part. And the reason for that is because, and Kimberlyn will be speaking to this here very shortly, is we want, as we develop this digital equity part of the Spark process, we want to start utilizing the information and all that gathering that she's going to be working on the listening tour side that Kansas will be very soon launching into, and gathering all that particular information as it relates to the digital equity to help provide a guidance for us to develop the Spark specific digital equity plan. And so that is a very quick synopsis of that Spark program. And as we start to really get out of the drafting phase, myself and of course Kimberlyn and the team will be happy to provide even more information as to what are we doing in the Spark, where is it right now, where are we in the process, what is that digital equity process looking like as it's being developed as we finish up the infrastructure piece of the Spark program.
Okay. So before you go, does anybody have any quick question for Joseph?
Quick.
I do, of course I do. I understand your model, your approach is to look at the infrastructure, which is broadband. And then I heard you're going to look into the equity, part of it. So I just want to make sure that, again, we're focusing on the equity and the inclusion piece. And if you look at Essential Family, right, that's what we're talking about. So I just want to make sure that, is that going to come in March or is that going to come summertime? Because again, I know everybody's pushing on this broadband, but again, broadband is there, and the existing broadband can utilize our services. All we need, the way I built my platform, is I need 100 meg down and 20 meg up. That's all I need, right, to run our platform. Now, Zoom needs a lot more because Zoom was built 13 years ago. I'm not throwing any shade on Zoom. I'm just telling you that Zoom is 13 years old, so they need a lot of bandwidth. We don't. So I'm just hoping that you guys will, my point is, I'm hoping that you can get to your equity and your inclusion part at the same time if possible. Because we have families.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your comments, Kenneth. I absolutely agree with you. And it's one of the big reasons why it's so critical for the work that Kimberly's doing in our office to focus on those key aspects of the digital equity part and trying to find and locate those unserved and underserved areas and work with not only the providers, but our key stakeholders such as yourself and others to identify what that means and what success looks like for that digital equity plan in terms of implementing that alongside the Spark Link program. So we will absolutely keep you all updated on how that goes, and we look forward to receiving feedback on our work because your feedback helps us guide that digital equity plan so that we can further fine tune it to serve those that need it.
Okay, 10 more seconds here, and I'll be done because this is very important. What he's offering here, folks, very important. Look here, I've already run my AI and machine learning toward that Wyandotte County. And unfortunately, Wyandotte County looks, I'm talking about from an economic perspective, the real estate and the age and the income, it looks worse than the area that we're in right now. Wyandotte County needs your help. And so to that point, we already have identified 155,000 consumers that are eligible for that ACP and these other programs. So again, if you guys have any advisory boards, you should let me sit on your board. I can show you some data sets that will save you a lot of time.
Absolutely. I think all of your feedback is absolutely necessary for us to draft these plans. And so while we will have further meetings, I'm sure, like this, and that will give us an opportunity as an office for us to include that sort of feedback for your expertise in the process. And I'm sure Kimberlyn will speak to some of the things that she's been working on, including that advisory board piece as well. For us as it pertains to the digital equity. I'm heading to my 12 o'clock mark right now. I apologize, I can't stay longer. It has been a fantastic discussion, but please, if you have any additional questions or would like to provide further commentary, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'll drop my contact information down below before I drop, and then of course, let Kimberlyn know if there's anything else we can do as an office to help you all as well.
And Joseph, just so you know, you always have an open invitation, and we always have time at these monthly meetings for you and Kimberlyn and BJ and Adam and anyone from the broadband office who has updates or information that's beneficial. We really appreciate your time and having you on this call. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I'm gonna move on to Kimberlyn. I don't know if I think you might have some
just a couple quick items.
Then we're going to go quickly. Our last person is Alexa Chmielewski, who is going to talk just very briefly about another opportunity. So we'll go to you, and then we'll go to Alexa.
Okay, so I wanted to thank you for having us at this meeting. Also, thank you guys for our broadband attending. Some of you attended our broadband summit. It was held January 19th, and we expected maybe 100 people, and almost 300 people showed up. So thank you very much. We expect to have a very, very explosive summit next year. So look forward to it. We just put together our advisory board for our digital equity planning. It was an overwhelming response. And we sent out invitations for those who showed extreme interest and had a diverse background, blended careers, variety of expertise tremendous passion. And we went by the guidelines that NDIA had provided for us in seeking those to be part of the advisory board, not a governance board, but an advisory board. We are currently at capacity, and there have been several requests and inquiries about being on our board. And so we are currently putting together like subcommittees for those who want to still participate and be able to give some input in our planning process. With all the efforts that are going on in our digital space, we applaud those who have put on webinars and training sessions and things like that. With Governor Laurel Kelly's initiative, we are hosting an ACP webinar on February the 22nd. I will put it in the chat. February 22nd, it will be conducted by Education Superhighway, which is one of our partners, our broadband partners. And then lastly, the roadshow. The Kansas Broadband Roadshow will be launched February the 15th. I call it the Sunflower Connection Tour. That's my personal tag on it. We're launching in 215. We are covering the entire state. We're going by the 8 economic development regions. We have 24 stops, 22 commitments, and we have 7 scheduled listening sessions right now. So we will be collecting data, ideas, identifying assets and barriers in these communities for our plan input, looking to improve the lives of community members who are disproportionately impacted by this divide. So hopefully that addresses Mr. William Wells' question about is it actually going to improve their lives and get them, elevate them from where they currently stand. So that's my report.
Great. Thank you, Kimberlyn.
You're welcome.
And then I'm going to turn it quickly over to Alexa Chmielewski, the Digital Communications Manager at KC Tech Council. Hi, Alexa. Thank you for your patience, everyone.
Thank you so much. Can you see my screen okay?
Yep.
Awesome. Well, I promise I'm going to keep this short, quick, and efficient. I wanted to quickly reintroduce myself. I am Alexa Chmielewski, the Digital Communications Manager at the KC Tech Council. We are a nonprofit membership organization focused around 3 strategic pillars: industry access, policy advocacy, and workforce development. During the pandemic, one of the items we were constantly hearing from meetings with our members was that they were interested in finding opportunities to engage in the community beyond networking. We found we're in a unique position since we're in talks with companies who could benefit from this assistance. So we decided to launch a volunteer board that provides opportunities to use tech-related skills in the Kansas City area, to join advisory boards, engage in speaking opportunities, become a mentor, and more. So if you are part of an organization or know of a school in the area that is looking for a technology-related volunteer, I'm going to quickly walk you through the process of adding these directly onto our resource. So firstly, you're just going to navigate to the KC Tech Council homepage, www.kctechcouncil.com. This is just a little preview of what our volunteer board looks like. If you scroll up to the top of the page, you're going to actually be able to see a button to submit your own tech-related volunteer opportunity. From here, it's pretty turnkey. You're just going to do your organization name, volunteer opportunity name, put whatever you want on our website into this form. I will then take this and add it directly to our website, and it's going to look something like this. This is a great opportunity to just get the word out about these possibilities. We would love to help promote them through our social platforms, on our weekly newsletter, on our volunteer board, you name it. You can reach out to me directly at alexa@kctechcouncil.com if you have any troubles submitting on your own. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And any questions for Alexa? That is really an incredible project and a great opportunity for all of us who are not participating currently. Any questions for Alexa?
Can I ask another question?
Ken has a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Alexa, I've been looking for you as well.
Perfect, I'm here.
And so I'm an Alexa developer, so she's talking in the background, so don't
Oh,
mind.
yes, trust me, it is quite the problem. being this era as an Alexa. So
But she's smart. She
Yes.
is smart. So my question is, again, so we're going to complete that, but we want to make sure that, the community knows that a lot of the things that are being discussed and planned are in motion right now, right? And it's not to toot our own horn, but it is to show that the digital equity and inclusion can be resolved. What we're finding out, and Terry had to run to another meeting and she didn't get a chance to share with you all, we've got a lot of data, and the summary is this. Here's the summary. The unserved and underserved people that we're serving right now, they really want to solve their own problem, but they don't have any tools. Okay, they don't have any internet, computer. So if we were to really give them the tools, they would participate in the digital economy. So we want to thank you, Alexa, for what you're doing, and Carrie, everybody on this line, what you're doing. But they really want to solve their own problems. They're not looking for a handout. They're not.
Yeah.
They're looking for
I
a
mean,
hand up.
the great news too is that these opportunities are starting to exist, and we just want to help spread the word because people aren't even aware of places like PCs for People where you're able to get these donated items and start learning. So thank you too, Kenneth.
Yes, no.
Any other question?
Yeah, I'd like to just add, I think it's great, Alexa. We've got a tool the university built that was launched in June of 2020 that has a resource navigator built by Casey SourceLink that I think you're familiar with. So we might want to coordinate these a little. I'd be happy to talk to you about it, but it has the same kind of resource profile. We're trying to improve the filters so that people, you can check it by zip code or mileage or whatever if you're looking for geography. So why don't we compare notes? I just want to remind people that's available. I think it's been underutilized, but the technology's there. We just need more profiles too. So I think the more places that these links show up so that the community can find, and it's, multiple users, practitioners, like a lot of folks on this call, and community members and neighborhood associations. So let's maybe.
Good. Tony, let's connect offline and I'd be happy to talk about that.
Great, thanks.
No
Thanks,
problem.
Tony. Okay, great. Well, I really appreciate, there was a lot of really incredible information on the call today. I appreciate all of you being here. I appreciate all the hard work you're doing. Thank you so much for being a partner in this work. And again, I hope
Carrie,
to see.
real quick, I'm having trouble copying and pasting that ACP information, that ACP webinar that we're having. Is there a distribution list so you can send out where I can forward the email to everyone?
Yes, Kimberlyn, if you want to just send it to me, I can share it. In addition to the newsletter that comes out soon, I can actually pass that along to our list.
Okay.
And I think you have my email.
Yeah, send it to Wendy and we'll get it in that recap
Wendy.
email that goes out. Yeah, Wendy.
Okay, I will. Thank you, Wendy.
Wendy Pearson and Leslie Scott make all of this happen behind the scenes. So really appreciate their help. We couldn't do without them. And again, really, I just want to thank everybody. This is really exciting news, and the presentations that we heard today are critical. And so we need to find ways to continue to keep meeting and working together, and especially finding ways to partner and collaborate. So thank you, everyone. And I will see you all in person on March 10th. It will be great to meet in person. So thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you so much.